I hate you, don't leave me. Ever seen a couple break up one week, then act like soulmates the next? It's no coincidence. Some relationships are a roller coaster of breakups and makeups, and it turns out there are deep psychological reasons behind this madness. When one partner is terrified of being abandoned and the other is terrified of being smothered, you get an anxious avoidant duo caught in a sticky trap. Today, we're unpacking 5 surprising reasons these opposites can't seem to call it quits. Hint, it's not because they don't realize the chaos. By the end, you'll understand why walking away is so hard, and you might even recognize a bit of this in your own experiences. Number 1. The emotional roller coaster is addictive. An anxious avoidant relationship often feels like a wild roller coaster, high highs and low lows. And believe it or not, our brains can get addicted to that ride. Psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement, a fancy term meaning the good moments happen unpredictably, which weirdly makes us want them even more. Imagine a slot machine. You never know when you'll hit the jackpot of affection, so you keep playing. In these relationships, the avoidant partner gives love on and off, a tender cuddle one day, then radio silence the next. This hot and cold pattern triggers the anxious partner's attachment system, creating intrigue and sparks that keep them hooked. Basically, the anxious partner's brain says, maybe this time I'll get the love I crave, just like a gambler chasing a win. Over time, the couple becomes chemically and emotionally dependent on the drama. The stress hormones during fights and the happy chemicals during makeups turn into a potent cocktail. It's addictive. They've learned to tolerate pain for the promise of pleasure, much like a trauma bond in toxic relationships, where occasional kindness after conflict binds people together. In short, the roller coaster isn't just excitement. It's an addiction that makes it extremely hard for either to step off the ride. 2. Fear of abandonment meets fear of intimacy. At the core of this relationship are 2 opposite fears locking together like puzzle pieces. The anxious partner deeply fears being left alone, abandonment, while the avoidant partner deeply fears being engulfed or controlled by love, intimacy overload. This creates a dramatic push-pull. Here's how it typically goes. The anxious person feels unloved and eventually threatens to leave. They've had enough of feeling ignored and think about walking away. The twist? The moment the anxious partner starts to leave, the avoidant partner panics. Suddenly, the avoidant's usual fear of too much closeness vanishes, and another fear erupts, the fear of being abandoned by their partner. In an almost comic reversal, the avoidant partner who was running away starts chasing, freed from the threat of being overwhelmed. Since the anxious one already has one foot out the door, the avoidant person is overcome by the horror of loss. They might beg, promise change, pour out affection, all the romantic stuff they usually hold back. And guess what? This hits the anxious partner's sweet spot. Hearing these honeyed words and promises, the anxious partner's own fear of being alone kicks in strong. Even if they were furious and ready to leave, they struggle to resist the sudden onslaught of love. In their mind, it's like, finally, they're giving me what I needed. So the breakup gets called off. This cycle of mutual fear keeps them together. One is afraid to leave, the other is afraid to be left. Neither can fully let go because splitting up triggers each one's deepest anxiety. For the anxious, it's I'll lose them forever. And for the avoidant, it's I'll regret letting them go. It's a tug of war where both lose if the rope breaks. 3. Reenacting childhood patterns. Why would anyone stay in such an unhappy loop? A big reason? It feels strangely familiar. Often, people with anxious or avoidant attachment styles are unconsciously replaying old childhood scripts. They're drawn to each other because each partner confirms what they already believe about love and themselves. In fact, studies found that avoidant individuals often end up with anxious partners. It's as if each is seeking the puzzle piece that fits their past. The avoidant's self-image, I'm independent, others want too much from me, gets validated by the anxious partner's clinginess. Meanwhile, the anxious person's fear, my partners always pull away and eventually leave me, gets validated by the avoidant's distancing. It's a dysfunctional dance that both recognize deep down. Psychologists note these attractions are based on reenacting the dysfunctional cycles of early childhood, where maybe one felt unloved and the other felt smothered. Each person is basically dating a familiar feeling. The anxious partner might have had inconsistent caregivers, sometimes loving, sometimes not, so now they're unconsciously used to chasing love. The avoidant might have grown up being told to toughen up, or had caretakers who invaded their privacy, so they're used to running from closeness. Together, they recreate that old scenario, almost like muscle memory. And here's the kicker. Even if they're miserable, it's hard to break up, because in a weird way, the situation feels like home. They stay together despite their unhappiness because it's the devil they know. Breaking up would mean unlearning these scripts, a scary, unfamiliar prospect. So they stick around, hoping to finally fix that old wound through each other, not fully realizing they're trapped in a time loop of their own past. 4. Glimpses of the good times, false hope. Every anxious avoidant couple knows those perfect moments that make all the drama worth it, or so they think. These moments give a powerful dose of hope. After a big fight or a near breakup, there's often a honeymoon phase. The avoidant partner, relieved that they aren't being cornered anymore, suddenly becomes warm, loving, even romantic. They might do all the things the anxious partner has been begging for. Say, "I love you" openly, plan a cozy date, really listen. It's like a dream come true. The anxious partner is stunned, in a good way. This is the person I fell in love with. For a while, both partners feel blissfully happy, as if they've finally turned a corner. The avoidant is no longer scared of being overwhelmed, so they give free expression to love, and the anxious, no longer afraid of being left, feels secure and adored. It seems like all the promises of change were real. This blissful reprieve creates a strong glue in the relationship. It's proof to the anxious person that, see, they can love me the way I need. And even for the avoidant, it's proof that maybe we are good together after all. Both begin to idealize the relationship's potential. They recall those tender kisses, deep talks, or apologies that felt sincere, and they tell themselves not to give up now. Essentially, they get a taste of what the relationship could be at its best, which overshadows memories of the worst moments. This false hope is powerful. It convinces them to give it one more try, again and again. In reality, of course, the old patterns soon creep back. The avoidant gets uncomfortable as things become too close and backs off. The anxious senses it and panics. Rinse and repeat. But by the time the cracks show up, the anxious partner is already emotionally reinvested, and the avoidant partner assumes the storm will blow over. Those glimpses of harmony act like superglue, patching the relationship just enough to keep it intact. Breaking up means losing not just the bad times, but also those rare, beautiful moments of connection, and that sacrifice feels too great. So they stay, chasing the next high of a good phase that always feels just around the corner. 5. Low self-esteem and mutual dependency. Anxious avoidant pairs often develop a kind of codependency. Each one's self-worth starts to revolve around the relationship, even if it's a rocky one. The anxious partner, especially, may struggle with low self-esteem. Deep down, they might believe thoughts like, "I'll never meet someone better," or "I'm going to end up alone." Those toxic beliefs act like concrete shoes, sinking them in place. Even if friends say, "You deserve better," the anxious partner worries that this troubled love is the best they can get. They've invested so much of their identity in trying to make it work that the idea of starting over feels impossible. Meanwhile, the avoidant partner has their own brand of insecurity. They often have a secret guilt or sense of inadequacy, knowing on some level that they struggle to meet their partner's needs. They might feel, "I'm not good enough for anyone." They may also fear the fallout of a breakup, the drama, the guilt of hurting someone, or even being seen as the bad guy. So in a strange way, they depend on the anxious partner too. The anxious one validates the avoidant's self-image as the independent one, and also provides companionship on the avoidant's own terms. Over time, both partners become emotionally entangled. The anxious partner is always boosting the avoidant's ego, even if unintentionally, by chasing them, and the avoidant gives the anxious one just enough validation to keep their hope alive. Neither feels confident they'd be happier apart. The anxious partner might think no one else would put up with their neediness, and the avoidant might think no one else would give them so much space. This leads to a fearful mindset of better dysfunctional together than uncertain apart. In essence, their insecurities lock together. The anxious partner's fear of being unlovable and the avoidant's fear of not being able to love properly create a dependency on each other's flaws. Breaking up would mean facing those raw insecurities alone, a terrifying prospect. So even when the relationship hurts, it feels safer than the unknown. Their self-esteem has become tied to this fraught partnership, making it incredibly hard to sever those ties. Conclusion: avoidant and anxious partners can be like oil and fire, a volatile mix that somehow keeps burning without burning out. We've seen that everything from brain chemistry to childhood wounds conspires to keep them in an on-off loop. It's not about lack of logic or strength, it's about deeply wired needs and fears. The anxious-avoidant trap is powerful, but recognizing these reasons is the first step to breaking free or healing the pattern. Love doesn't have to be a battlefield of extremes. Understanding why it's so hard to let go can help someone decide if they want to fix the dynamic or finally find the courage to exit the ride.